I've been thinking long and hard about how I was going to introduce the Dodge Hornet in this video review. And no matter what came to mind, I always circle back, or whatever I had an initial impression is what I'm trying to say. And I've been trying to avoid going there, but I can't help it. You see, Dodge, you probably know this, but Dodge has had a really, really tough time so far in the 21st century with their smallest entry-level products. And it's not typically because they were no good, because they all had certain amounts of worth, but it was never the right product at the right time. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that, do you all recall the Dodge Caliber in 2006, 2007 when it arrived, which replaced the SX 2.0, which was the Neon, which had a certain amount of success. Let's be fair with that, but it was not a very good vehicle, but it had a lot of success. The follow-up to that was the Caliber, which in hindsight now was ahead of its time. It did have a certain amount of success as well, but it didn't turn out to be a very good vehicle. And then Dodge introduced the Dart, which was really, really cool. Small compact car that had, a lot of Dodge Charger, not DNA, but but it was the wrong vehicle at the wrong time, because in effect what Dodge should have done is launch the Dart in the mid 2000s and then follow it up with a Caliber. And probably, things would have gone better. I mean, I don't know about the reliability and the rust resistance-ness of the vehicles in time, but anyway. So fast forward to 2023, where now finally Dodge has introduced another new small vehicle in the Hornet. And I find myself asking myself more or less the exact same question. There is no doubt that this is exactly what is necessary at this point in time. But everything you don't see, and the price tag, is not the right approach in 2024 for an entry-level crossover. The thing is, kind of like the Dart, kind of like the Caliber, in essence, as new, because obviously this is a 2024 model year, it's pertinent, it's good. So it should do really, really well. But there's something wrong in the mix, in the way it was planned, that I don't see anywhere near enough of these on the road. I mean, I'll tell you the base price for the Hornet in a few moments, so you'll have to stick around, unless you just go check it on, you Google it or whatever. But thing is that this should be competing with the CX-30, with the HR-V, with a whole bunch of other small SUVs, the Kicks, all of that, but it doesn't. Somehow Dodge, the Taos, somehow Dodge wants to position it in a premium setting. I don't know. As you can see in the caption, this is not the base Dodge Hornet. This is in fact an RT, the base model being the GT. So this is the plug-in hybrid variant, which is expensive, at least MSRP where that is concerned. And it near as much makes no sense. It doesn't mean that this isn't fun. It doesn't mean that it's no good. It just means that it doesn't make sense. It's not the entry-level vehicle that Dodge should be offering to the masses. Maybe in the future there will be a lesser version, but I think maybe the damage is already done. And in a few years from now, maybe because I'm going to say it, it's not going to happen, but this is going to go the way of the Dart. This is going to go the way of the Caliber, where it's going to last only a number of model years and then it's going to be replaced by something completely different. Anyhow, in the following video, we're going to do a few laps of this decently handsome vehicle, admittedly, and I will tell you about the pricing, and then we're going to go for a drive. I mean, as you know, plug-in hybrid, that means that this has a fully electric range and that it has a lot more power. It's also a lot heavier, but yeah, that's what happens when you go PHEV. Please hang around and allow me to continue to just talk, please. All right, so here we go. In the US, the base GT is $31,400 and the RT starts at $41,400. In Canada, I tried to extract the freight and prep numbers, so the prices are approximate. Base price is $42,000 for the GT, which is insane if you ask me, for an entry-level compact SUV, or subcompact in fact. So I think right there, that's the big problem. That's at least $10,000 way too high for the segment in which this model should compete in. And when you step up to the RT, well, it becomes even more ridiculous because the MSRP, again, approximate, is $56,000. I don't know why Dodge doesn't want to sell more of these, but I understand packed with tech and all of that, but there's no volume in this. I mean, for that price, you know, you try and find yourself a Charger RT. Yeah. All right, so base equipment is in the GT is all-wheel drive. You have 17-inch wheels, 10.25-inch touchscreen display, LEDs, Uconnect 5, heated steering wheel. And the base GT has the turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. When you step up to the RT, as I said, it's the PHEV version. You do get Brembo brakes, paddle shifters, 18-inch wheels, a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, and so on and so forth. There is also a Plus model, which includes a Harman Kardon audio system. It's an extra $6,000, but the good news is that this is not that. But I do have a number of options, including the black top and track pack, which includes 20-inch wheels, Alcantara seats, a dual mode suspension, black badges, for a grand total of about $60,000, probably closer to 61. There are incentives, of course, available from the governments depending on the territory in which you live, which can total up to about $10,000 before taxes. But it's just no. But it is, I mean, look, it is attractive. I like the front end. It's like a shrunken Charger, which is what you want. The 20-inch wheels are fine. These are the optional, whoops. These are the optional black badges. You get the heat extractors in the hood. Gloss black, pano sunroof and all of that, you know, dual exhaust, all the black badges. I mean, black on black is so played out, and it rained a couple times, so that's why it looks terribly dirty when it isn't really that dirty. But there's the Brembo calipers painted red, as they should be. It's good looking, and it's deceptively big, but it's small at the same time. Anyhow, so let's do the tour. Let's continue the tour, I mean. The power hatch, as you would expect, at least for the price. So this reveals 650 liters of boot space, which is about 150 liters, give or take, less than what you get in a non-plug-in hybrid. But it's not that big of a deal. I mean, there's some decent space under here for your charge cable. Easily accessible. It's not enormously deep, you know, I can reach the end like that, but still, it's functional. This is a cool subcompact. Oops, I see it wouldn't go down. This has been happening a lot. I've been pressing buttons and there are a lot of delays in the way the things respond. The back seat is decent for 2 adults. I like to drive very close, so that's why there's an enormous amount of room. It's not that generous typically, but with the kids, they still have plenty of room. It's all good. The attention to details, I mean, yeah, oops, that's what happens with the rain. Nice and clean now. Look, fit finish materials are fine for the trim, but a little bit difficult to swallow for the price. The seats, however, are very comfortable. There's your Alcantara inserts. Very, very cool, like the red background and the mesh. Good support, absolutely great support. In fact, you can see this is like leatherette on the outside, but it's got the Alcantara on the inside of the bolster, so it keeps you in place. Power lumbar support. It's quite, I mean, it's really, really nice. And this is a good shot of the column mounted paddle shifters, which are enormous, very alpha. Love that. Okay, so let's just get inside. Bunch of little things going on here. I guess we can start. So the 10.25 display, you can see this is the eDrives. Okay, so they appear there and they appear here. So this is actually really important, because you have the eSave, which means that you can block out the charge in the battery and use it later. And then, see, look, I press the button and it's really, really slow to respond. Okay, and see, whoa. So then there's all electric, and there's your typical by default drive mode, which is hybrid. 12.3-inch IP, which is quite nice. As always, Uconnect itself is very functional. There's this button, which is nice, but I don't know. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that in a few moments. Nice typical shifter. The manual mode, that's how you do put it in order to use the paddles, which I love the click sound. It's really, really nice. What else can I tell you? Visibility is atrocious. Storage is decent, I guess. That's your wireless charge pad. Cup holders as always. But yeah, visibility is kind of awful because look at the size of the base of the A-pillar. It's very Jeep-like and very Dodge. And this is enormous. Look at this massive blind spot for such a small vehicle. Anyhow, I guess I can end on going back to the steering wheel. I love the buttons. Everything is very narrow in the spoke and the grip is phenomenal. And yeah, I think it's drive time now. Okay, so the last drive mode that I left it in when I was just playing with the buttons was electric. So let's go with that. So it's a PHEV. It's got a 15.5 kilowatt hour battery, which weighs 276 pounds. So a lot more than me, lots more than me. Will give you this battery on a full charge, 53 kilometers of EV range, estimated, of course. Now, because it's an EV, I've had it fully charged 3 times already, and the week's not yet quite over. And every time, max range indicated is 50 kilometers. But it's a little bit of a cheeky monkey range because it stayed on all 3 occasions at 50, even though I had traveled 4 or 5 kilometers. And by cheeky, I mean that in the next use, after the 4 or 5 kilometers, say dropping off the kids, which is what you want, you know, that's what a PHEV is for, right? You want that EV range for the little treks in town, in your hood, whatever. And the time after that, those 4 or 5 kilometers, well, range dropped to 42, indicated 42 kilometers. And look, yes, I've had AC on, but because it's now warm, yay. But I've been driving with, you know, very reasonably. I'm being absolutely honest because, you know, fuel is expensive and this is a perfect opportunity to try and get what I want out of a PHEV. So that's that. The other aspect to the powertrain is, let's just go into hybrid. It's so long. It's like asking it, there we go. It is a 1.3 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that when you combine with the electric rear axle mounted motor and the 1.3, you're looking at a grand total of 288 system horsepower and a whopping 383 pound-feet, combined pound-feet of torque, which is huge. But yeah, I don't know if I'm driving this thing wrong. I'm not exactly sure, but in hybrid mode and everything else left, you know, normal, non-sport, it takes forever. Look, I'm rolling into it and it's being really, really lazy. 6-speed automatic transmission, by the way. It's really slow to pick up. I don't know, yeah, I know there's sport mode left. We'll just keep that for dessert. But in hybrid, you expect that, you know, that the brain of the throttle position sensor, the ECU, and all of that figures that, well, if you're going down far against the firewall, you want the power, you want it now, and as, you know, you want it to come on, but efficiency might be the name of the game. Now, speaking of efficiency, so these damn liter equivalents per 100 kilometers is like 3.1 on this, but the reality is, and I admit it, I'm being good. I'm averaging 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers, which is just not, it's just not good. It's not bad, but it's not good. If you consider the power, it's not bad. If you consider the fact that, you know, you should be able to do 50 kilometers of all electric range all the time, it's not good. Oh, there's also a power shot. Okay, so that's where we're going. So now we're going to go into sport. Obviously, it's a traffic light, so the engine turns on automatically. The gauges change. Everything is like all super angry and all of that. And then suddenly you have access to this power, and then suddenly it's not that it's angry, but it really wants to punch. It's like it's trying to make up for, I'm sorry about the hybrid mode. Here's sport mode. It's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And with the power shot, okay, well, that time it didn't take off as best as I thought. Okay, there we go. All right. So with the power shot, with all of that, you're looking at 5.6 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, which is really, really quick in the segment. I am convinced that the CX-30 2.5 turbo cannot keep up with this as far as launching is concerned. And I guess, see, there we go, son of a gun. Power delivery is very linear, but it's jerky. It's not sustained. It's not progressive. I mean, it's linear once the boost is on, but to get to the boost, it feels like an old school turbo from like the 80s or 90s, which has a certain amount of charm, but you don't want that in 2024. Ride quality is pretty good. I'm thinking that with the 18s, it's going to be even better. But it's not terrible unless the road surface is really, really bad. I mean, even with the two-stage suspension in sport, it's not terribly uncomfortable. And when you go back into a normal, say, hybrid, hybrid, thank you. Ride quality, it's actually really smooth. I mean, basically, I'm trying to look for a problem, but there isn't. Steering is fine. I mean, the on-center is almost non-existent. Brake pedal feel is really nice, and the power is good. Thank you, Brembo, for that. So all this to say is that it's a really cool vehicle, but it's not what Dodge needs, and it's not what consumers want. And unlike perhaps the Caliber SRT and the Neon SRT and all, the RT is not going to be, it's not going to, I'm frustrated with Dodge, essentially. Because as I said, Taos, HRV, I'm trying to think here, what else? Well, not CHR, not RAV4 either, so maybe a Toyota. There's also a little bit of a gap there. But it just doesn't compete with the vehicles it should compete with. It's too expensive. There's too much to it, which should be a good thing, but it's what jacks up the price, which is not a good thing. At least if Dodge intends to sell have some volume behind it. Anyhow, that's it. I like it, but it's the right vehicle, totally packaged wrong for 2024. That's it. I'm done.